Have you ever found something that made you realize you never really knew someone? I mean, truly knew them, not the version they let you see, not the role they played in your life, but the person they were before you existed? Before they became the word you used to describe them? I used to think I knew my grandmother. I was wrong. And now, 3 months after finding what she hid, I'm starting to wonder if the woman I called Nana ever really existed at all. My grandmother passed away on February 3rd of this year. 91 years old. Peaceful, they said, in her sleep, in the house she'd lived in since 1968. A good death, if there is such a thing. She'd outlived my grandfather by 22 years, outlived her own daughter, my mother, by 6. By the end, I was her only family left. Just me. 34 years old, living 40 minutes away in Bridgeport, visiting every Sunday like clockwork. She always had shortbread waiting. Always. The sewing box was mentioned specifically in her will. That surprised me because Nana wasn't sentimental about objects. She'd given most things away while she was still alive, pressing items into my hands during visits. Take this, you'll need it someday. This was your mother's, you should have it. But the sewing box she kept. It sat on the same table by her armchair for as long as I could remember. Dark wood, brass hinges, a small keyhole in the front, though I never saw her lock it. She used it constantly. Buttons, thread, her good scissors. I brought it home the day after the funeral. Set it on my kitchen counter and just looked at it for a while. It smelled like her house. Like lavender sachets and old wood and something else underneath, something faintly chemical I couldn't place. I didn't open it that night. I wasn't ready. Isn't that strange? It was just a sewing box. But I poured a glass of wine and sat across from it like it was a guest I wasn't sure I wanted to let in. The next morning, I opened it. Morning light seemed safer somehow. Inside, everything was exactly as I remembered, the pincushion shaped like a tomato, the measuring tape in its silver case, spools of thread in colors she'd used to mend my clothes when I was small. Navy blue for my school sweaters. White for shirt buttons. A dusty pink she'd used once to fix a tear in my prom dress, working so carefully you couldn't see the seam unless you knew where to look. I lifted out the top tray, that's what it's called, I learned later, the removable compartment that holds the small items. Beneath it was the deeper section where she kept larger things. Fabric scraps. A bundle of embroidery floss held together with a rubber band. And there, at the bottom, I noticed something I'd never seen before. The wood looked different. Slightly lighter. When I pressed on it, it moved. I want to stop here and tell you something. I've thought about this moment constantly for 3 months. Replayed it. I could have left it alone. The false bottom was subtle, anyone else cleaning out her things might have missed it entirely. Donated the box to Goodwill, never knowing. Part of me wishes I had. But I didn't. I pressed harder, and the panel lifted at one corner, and I hooked my fingernail underneath, and I pulled. Inside the hidden compartment was a bundle wrapped in cloth. Unbleached muslin, yellowed with age, tied with a piece of twine that broke apart when I touched it. The cloth fell open and photographs spilled out. Old photographs, the kind with the white borders and the rounded corners. Maybe 24 of them. Black and white. Some sepia-toned. The oldest looked like they might be from the 1930s, maybe earlier. I picked up the first one, and my hands went cold. The faces were gone. Not damaged, removed. Carefully, precisely cut out with something sharp. A family portrait of 5 people standing in front of a house. Their bodies were intact, their clothes visible, the house behind them clear. But where their faces should have been, there were only oval holes. The photograph had been mutilated with the precision of surgery. I picked up another. Same thing. A woman holding an infant. The infant's face intact. The woman's gone. I went through all of them. 26 photographs in total. The infant appeared in several, growing slightly older in each one, maybe spanning a year or two of life. That face was always preserved. Every other face in every photograph had been excised. Some photos showed just the child. Others showed the child being held by faceless adults, surrounded by faceless other children, standing in groups of faceless figures. The backgrounds varied: a yard, a street, what looked like a church, a Christmas tree. I should tell you, I don't know what my grandmother looked like as a child. I'd never seen a photograph. She came to the United States from Poland in 1952, she said, and everything from before was lost. The war, the displacement, the years in camps afterward. No photographs survived. That's what she told us. That's what we believed. I sat at my kitchen table looking at these pictures, at this infant with the dark eyes and the serious expression, and I thought, is this her? Is this my grandmother? But that raised a question I couldn't answer. If these photographs were precious enough to hide, precious enough to bring across an ocean, to keep for 70 years in a secret compartment, why destroy them? Why cut out the faces of everyone around her and keep only her own? Looking back, I think I knew even then that I was asking the wrong question. The right question was worse. I just wasn't ready to form it yet. I put the photographs back. Wrapped them in the muslin. Replaced the false bottom. Closed the sewing box and put it in my closet and tried to forget about it. I lasted 4 days. On the 5th day, I drove to Nana's house. I still had my key. The estate sale wasn't scheduled for another 3 weeks. The house still smelled like her lavender, old wood, shortbread, even though there hadn't been any baked there in months. I wasn't sure what I was looking for. Something. Anything. I started in her bedroom, going through dresser drawers that had already been sorted. Then the closet. Then the hall closet. Then the attic, which was mostly empty, just Christmas decorations and a box of my mother's old clothes that Nana couldn't bear to give away. Nothing. No more photographs. No letters. No documents that explained anything. My grandmother had been very thorough about not leaving traces. I almost missed it. I was leaving, walking through the kitchen one last time, when I noticed the wallpaper. There was a seam near the window that was peeling slightly. I'd seen it before. Nana had pointed it out once, complained about the humidity. But now, looking closer, I could see it wasn't a seam at all. It was a cut. Deliberate. A rectangle about the size of a shoebox, where the wallpaper had been sliced and re-glued, not quite matching up with the pattern. I knew I shouldn't. The house wasn't officially mine yet, the estate was still being processed, and even if it had been mine, there was something that felt transgressive about this. Like I was violating something sacred. But I'd come this far. I peeled back the wallpaper, and underneath was bare plaster with a hole cut into it. Inside the hole was a tin box, the kind that once held cookies or candy. I took it out. My hands were shaking. I don't know why. I think I already knew, somehow. Inside the tin were documents. A few official-looking papers in a language I couldn't read, Polish, I assumed, or maybe German. A handwritten letter, also in a foreign language, the ink faded to brown. And one more photograph. This one was different from the others. It was larger, more formal, a professional portrait, the kind taken in a studio. A family of 5. 2 adults, 3 children. All with their faces intact. The man wore a suit. The woman wore a dark dress with a white collar. The children were arranged in front of them, 2 girls, perhaps 8 and 10 years old, and between them, a younger child. Maybe 4. Maybe 5. The infant from the other photographs, grown slightly older. I recognized her immediately. Those dark eyes. That serious expression. But here's the thing that made me sit down on my grandmother's kitchen floor and stay there for a very long time. The older girl on the left. The one who looked about 10. She looked exactly like the pictures I'd seen of my grandmother as a young woman. The same high cheekbones. The same way of holding her shoulders. The same slight asymmetry to her mouth that I'd inherited, that I saw in my own mirror every day. The little girl in the center, the infant from the hidden photographs, didn't look like my grandmother at all. She looked like someone else entirely. I need you to understand what I'm saying here. I need you to follow the logic with me because I couldn't follow it myself for days. My grandmother kept photographs of an infant. She preserved that infant's face while cutting out everyone else's. She hid these photographs for 70 years. But the infant wasn't her. If the older girl was my grandmother, and she was, I'm certain of it, then the infant was someone else. A younger sibling, maybe. A cousin. Someone close. Who was the child in the photographs? And why did my grandmother remove the faces of everyone except her? I took the photograph and the documents. I left everything else. I drove home in silence, no radio, no podcasts, nothing. Just the sound of the road and my own breathing and a question I couldn't stop asking. What happened to that child? What happened to that family? What did my grandmother do? I had the documents translated. It cost $300 and took 2 weeks because the handwriting was old and faded and the translator said some of the terms were archaic, specific to a particular region of Poland in the 1940s. The official papers were identification documents, internal passports, he called them, the kind people needed to travel between zones during and after the war. They belonged to a family named Kowalczyk. Parents and 3 daughters. My grandmother's maiden name was Kowalczyk. That matched. But the names of the children didn't match anything I'd ever heard. The oldest was listed as Helena. My grandmother's name was Anna. Anna Kowalczyk, that's what she'd always told us, what was written on her immigration papers, what she'd carried her entire life in America. But these documents said Helena. The youngest daughter, the infant, was listed as Anna. Do you see it yet? I didn't want to. I fought it for days. There had to be an explanation. Maybe the documents were wrong. Maybe there was another family with the same surname. Maybe my grandmother was adopted, or the names were changed for protection during the war. I kept reaching for explanations because the alternative was unthinkable. But I thought it anyway. In the dark, at 3 in the morning, unable to sleep, I thought it. The letter was the hardest to translate. The handwriting was cramped and emotional, and the translator said it appeared to be unfinished. It stopped mid-sentence with no signature. It was dated June 1951 and addressed to no one in particular. More of a journal entry than correspondence. The translator sent me his work with a note that said simply, "I'm sorry. I don't know what he meant by that. I do now." The letter described a displacement camp in Germany. The chaos after the war. Families separated, children orphaned, records lost or destroyed. It described how easy it was to become someone else. How a document with the right name could mean the difference between staying in Europe and getting passage to America, where there was family waiting, family with money, family who had been writing to the Kowalczyks for months asking about their youngest daughter, their little Anna. The letter was written by someone who had done something terrible. Someone who had watched an opportunity present itself in the chaos. Someone who had looked at a younger sister, the only other survivor of their family, and made a calculation. The Americans wanted Anna. The papers said Anna. The little girl was too young to know the difference, too young to contradict anything, too young to remember that she'd ever had a different name. She would grow up believing she was someone else. She would never know. My grandmother didn't come to America as a child. She came as a young woman, 17 or 18, by the documents. She came claiming to be her own younger sister. She came and left the real Anna behind in a camp in Germany. Whether that little girl survived, whether she died, whether she lived out her life under a different name entirely, I don't know. The letter doesn't say. It stops mid-sentence. I think about her face when she... That's where it ends. I've read those words 100 times. I think about her face when she what? Realized? Screamed? Was taken away? I'll never know. The woman who wrote that letter is dead. She died in her sleep on February 3rd of this year, in a house in Connecticut, surrounded by photographs of a life she stole. 91 years old. A good death, they said. Here's what I can't stop thinking about. The faces. She cut out all the faces except one, except the face of the little girl she left behind. Why? Guilt? Some twisted memorial to the sister she betrayed? Or was it something else? Was she erasing the people who knew the truth, who could identify her, who could prove she wasn't who she claimed to be? Was she preserving the face of Anna so she could remember, always, whose life she was wearing? I thought about going public with this. Contacting historians, DNA registries, searching for descendants of displaced persons who might have known the Kowalczyk family. I even found an organization that helps reunite families separated during the war. But I haven't done any of it. I can't bring myself to. Because there's a part of me, and I hate this part, I'm ashamed of it, that doesn't want to know if the real Anna had children, if she has grandchildren somewhere, if there are people in the world with a better claim to the name I carry. The sewing box is still in my closet. I've thought about destroying it. Burning the photographs, shredding the documents, pretending none of this ever happened. My grandmother, Helena, I should call her, but I can't, not yet. She kept this secret for 70 years. She could have destroyed everything herself. She had decades to do it. But she didn't. She left it for me to find, hidden but not hidden well enough. Why? I think she wanted someone to know. I think the weight of it had become too much to carry alone, and she couldn't bring herself to confess while she was alive, couldn't stand to see the way I'd look at her if I knew. So she hid it just well enough that I might find it, might not, might piece it together years after her death when it was too late to ask questions. A confession without consequences. Or so she thought. But there are consequences. I feel them every day. When I look in the mirror and see her cheekbones, her mouth. When I write my name, my legal name, the name that came from her, the name that might not belong to me at all. When I think about my mother, who died never knowing that her mother wasn't who she said she was. When I wonder if some part of my mother suspected, if that was why they argued so often, if there was something about her own mother that my mother could sense but never name. 3 nights ago, I couldn't sleep. I got up at 2 in the morning and went to the closet and took out the sewing box and sat with it in the dark. I didn't open it. I just held it. It still smells like her house. Lavender. Old wood. And that other smell underneath, the chemical one I couldn't identify. I know what it is now. It's photo-developing fluid. The kind used in darkrooms. The kind that would be on photographs handled and cut and arranged and hidden away. I don't know why I'm telling you this. Maybe for the same reason she left it for me to find, because the weight is too much, and I can't carry it alone, and maybe if I say it out loud, if I give it to someone else to hold for a while, it will become bearable. Maybe I'm hoping someone out there knows something. Maybe I'm hoping someone will tell me I'm wrong, that I've misread the evidence, that my grandmother really was who she said she was. But I don't think I'm wrong. I've looked at that family portrait 100 times. The older girl's face. My grandmother's face in photographs from the 1960s, the 1970s. My mother's face. My own face. The line is unbroken and unmistakable. We are descended from Helena Kowalczyk, who took her sister's name and her sister's life and came to America and made shortbread on Sundays and mended prom dresses and kept her secret until the very end. I've started having a recurring dream. In the dream, I'm in a house I don't recognize, and there's a little girl sitting in the corner with her back to me. She's maybe 4 or 5 years old. She's wearing a white dress that's too big for her, and her hair is dark. I try to get her attention, but she won't turn around. I say her name Anna, and she goes very still. Then she starts to turn, slowly, and I wake up before I can see her face. Last week I dreamed it again. But this time was different. This time, she turned all the way around. And where her face should have been, there was nothing. Not a blank space, not shadow, just an oval of absence, like she'd been cut out of reality the same way she'd been cut out of those photographs. I woke up crying. I don't know why. I don't know if I was crying for her or for myself or for my grandmother or for all of us, caught in something none of us chose. The estate sale is next week. I'm supposed to sign the final papers for the house tomorrow. After that, it'll belong to someone else. They'll paint over that patch of wallpaper. They'll never know what was hidden there. They'll make new memories in those rooms, and my grandmother's presence will fade, and eventually, no one will remember she ever lived there at all. Except me. I'll remember. I'll carry this for the rest of my life. I keep the sewing box on the table by my armchair now. I don't know why. It felt wrong to leave it in the closet, hidden in the dark. Sometimes I open it and use the scissors, the thimble, the measuring tape. Sometimes I just look at it. I haven't opened the false bottom again. I don't need to. I know what's there. 26 photographs with the faces cut out. One face preserved. One question I'll never be able to answer. What happened to the real Anna Kowalczyk? Did she survive? Did she find a life somewhere, under a different name, never knowing she'd been replaced? Is she still alive, 90 years old in a nursing home somewhere, waiting for a family that never came to find her? Or did she die in that camp, another child lost to history, her only memorial a bundle of photographs hidden in a sewing box across an ocean? I'll probably never know. But I think about her. Every day now, I think about her. I look at those photographs, her infant face, so serious, so unaware, and I try to imagine the life she might have had. The life my grandmother took from her. The life that should have been hers. Sometimes I talk to her. Out loud, alone in my apartment, holding the photograph. I tell her I'm sorry. I tell her I wish I could have known her. I tell her I won't forget. I don't know if that means anything. I don't know if apologies matter when the person you're apologizing to has been gone for decades, might never have existed in the way you imagine them. But it's all I have. The sewing box sits on my table, and I sit beside it, and somewhere outside, the world goes on as if none of this ever happened. Maybe it didn't. Maybe I'm wrong about everything. Maybe my grandmother was exactly who she said she was. But then why does the sewing box still smell like her? Why do I dream of a little girl in white who won't show me her face? Why did I find, last night, that the false bottom had been moved, shifted slightly to the left, when I know I haven't opened it in weeks? I live alone. No one else has a key. No one else has been in my apartment. And yet the panel was crooked, like someone had lifted it and not quite fit it back in place. I'm probably imagining things. I must be. The alternative is something I don't want to consider. That my grandmother is still here somehow, checking on her secret, making sure it stays hidden. That the little girl is here, looking for something, looking for answers I can't give. That I've invited something into my home by disturbing what was meant to stay buried. I don't believe in ghosts. I never have. But I didn't believe in sewing boxes with false bottoms either, and look where that got me. Tonight I'm going to do something I've been putting off. I'm going to open the false bottom and look at the photographs again. All of them. One by one. I'm going to study those cut edges, those missing faces, and I'm going to try to understand what my grandmother was thinking when she made those cuts. What she was feeling. What she was trying to erase. And then I'm going to make a decision about what to do with them. I don't know what that decision will be. Maybe I'll finally burn them. Maybe I'll send them to one of those organizations. Maybe I'll just put them back and close the box and try to forget again, even though I know I never will. But whatever I choose, I wanted someone else to know first. I wanted someone to hear this story, to carry it with me, to remember that there was once a little girl named Anna Kowalczyk who deserved better than what she got. It's getting late now. The apartment is quiet. The sewing box is waiting. Somewhere out there, in a past I can't reach, in a country I've never visited, in a history that belongs to me whether I want it or not, a little girl is still waiting too. I can feel her. Patient. Watching. Wanting something I don't know how to give. And I wonder, as I reach for the box, as my fingers find the hidden panel, if I open it this time, will the faces still be missing? Or will something have changed while I wasn't looking? I guess I'll find out.